Make my jokes, right? Okay. Yesterday we spoke about insulating foods, and there is a rabbinic prohibition on Shabbat that you can't do insulation of food on Shabbat. What does that mean? So we said on the bottom of 34A, the top of 34B, we spoke about there's two laws. There's a law that you can't take a pot off a fire on Shabbat. Let's say you have it on the blech, you have it on a hot plate, and you take the pot off, and if you're going to wrap the pot in a towel on all four sides and totally insulate the pot, even though a towel does not add heat, it says that you can't insulate a pot on Shabbat. I can't take a pot off a fire, off a stove. Let's say what a lot of people do, Ashkenaz community, they have stove, they keep a burner on, they put a sheet of metal, they call it a blech, I don't know if you say, and they put the food on top of that, and they leave it on that throughout the Shabbat. They put it on before Shabbat. The Sfardim actually, many of them will actually take cold food that's actually totally cooked before the Shabbat, and they'll put it on that blech on Shabbat. Meaning they'll take a piece of kugel that's totally cooked, they'll take some deli, piece of chicken on Shabbat, since it was already fully cooked, and they're not putting it directly on a fire, so it doesn't appear like cooking. So therefore, in the Sephardic community, many will actually put dry, not liquid food. Liquid food, we'll see the different things, but dry food on, good morning, Boker Tov. They'll put it on the blech. That is regarding Shabbat, insulating the food on Shabbat. Now, what about before Shabbat? Before Shabbat, you're allowed to go ahead and take a pot. Let's say you have a pot of soup. You made a pot of soup. And you don't want to keep the fires on Shabbat with a blech. You're afraid it's the summertime. You don't want the kitchen to be hot. So what do you, but you want the food to be hot for Shabbat. So what you could do is you could take the pot of we say hello to Jack, by the way. Welcome, Jack. You take the pot of soup. You could take it off before Shabbat and wrap it in the towel completely. Even though you're insulating it, but since you're doing that action before Shabbat, and the towel does not add heat, it just keeps the heat in, that's allowed. That's allowed. That's allowed to. So we have a difference regarding insulating of food. We have wrapping food in a towel, wrapping the pot in a towel. There's a difference between wrapping it before Shabbat or wrapping it on Shabbat. Now, even if I want on Shabbat, if I wrap it in the towel, as long as if I leave it open a certain amount, that's not called insulating, really. So I could technically take the pot off the fire and wrap it in a towel, as long as I'll leave one side of the towel open, right? Morning, Eddie or Ezra. So now, but if I'm going to insulate food before Shabbat with something that actually adds heat, and I'll wrap the pot, let's say, in ash, the Gemara talks ash, or so then the Gemara says that's a problem, and not only because the concern was maybe in the ash there's some leftover residual coals, and you might come to stoke the coals. So therefore they said all things that add heat. You can't insulate a food before Shabbat with something that adds, if it's going to add heat, with something that adds heat. Something that doesn't add heat, is that clear, Jack? You take a towel before Shabbat, you want to wrap your pot before Shabbat. You took it off the stove, nothing's adding heat. You want to wrap the pot completely, you can do that before Shabbat. You can't wrap the pot completely on the Shabbat. If you take, so very good. So crock pot. So now crock pot, and that's a great question. But the crock pot, even though it's like an insert, how does a crock pot work? It's like a pot, but it's surrounded by but the cover, you only have a cover. You're not wrapping the cover of the crock pot. So the cover is not called, that's not called, we don't look at that as your that's an act of insulation. If you would actually cover the cover, so then that would be a problem, because even though you did that act before Shabbat, but it's adding heat, it's on throughout the Shabbat, and therefore it's an item that's being insulated with the adding of heat. So therefore we don't, there are opinions that say you can't use a crock pot on Shabbat because of that reason. Because we leave the top open. Not that we leave it exposed, but we just have the cover of the pot, right? What's on the what do you have on the top of the crock pot? The glass cover of the crock pot. That's not an act of, that's the normal way of cooking. It's not a way of insulating.
What if it was like Tupperware? Like let's say you have lunch on, or you have dinner Friday night.
Right.
Then you want to put the food away. Can you seal it in a thing that, like, it's an airtight container? Wouldn't that be insulated?
Right. So now, if it's not the actual pot where it was cooked in, if once it was put into another pot, that would not be, to my knowledge, that wouldn't be a problem. It's not the actually pot that you're actually cooking with.
So what would count as insulating if the tops don't count?
Say it again.
What would count as insulated?
I mean, if you would wrap the top, if you would wrap, let's say if you would take aluminum foil and you wrap the top of the pot.
Okay. Sometimes
I'm saying if that would be an issue, because if you have the situation when you have the inserts, you have the whole box is insulating the crock pot, plus now you place this that might be considered, that might be a problem of insulating it. Okay. Now the Gemara, a very fascinating Gemara. Come up. Tana Rabbanan. We're now on 34b. Tana Rabbanan Ben Hashmashot. So it's in the article, it's 34b1. We started this yesterday. It says Tana Rabbanan Ben Hashmashot. We have the twilight zone, right? So twilight is when the sun goes down until it gets dark, until the stars come out. That's called twilight. What status does that time period have regarding Shabbat, regarding other laws? How do you view what is it? What are the possible ways to view that time? So the Gemara says there's three possibilities regarding that time. The Gemara says Safek min hayom min halayla. There's a question, maybe twilight, between twilight and dark might have parts of day and part of night, right? During twilight, any time during twilight could be daytime, and then any time it could turn to nighttime, right? So this is one way to explain the Gemara. Others explain the Gemara differently, that, throughout twilight, at any moment, this moment could be day. Now, twilight could be the whole twilight. The Gemara is going to say twilight, the whole twilight could be day, right? You could look at twilight from sunset till dark, that whole duration of time is day. Or you could look at that time of sunset till dark as the whole duration is night. Or you could look at that time from sunset till dark, that part of it will be day and part of it will be night. That's right. There's three possibilities for how to understand how to identify that time period between sunset and night. What is it? Name that tune. So what do? So we say that's Safek min hayom min halayla. Maybe it has day and night within that twilight period. Safek hula min hayom, safek hula min halayla. Maybe the whole thing is day, or the whole thing is night. So matilin oto l'chol mishnei yamim. So you got to take the stringencies, and that's what we do with Shabbat. That's how we act on Shabbat. During twilight zone, from sunset until it gets dark, Friday night, tonight, we can't do malacha. We're not allowed to do work. We can't light candles after sunset. Once sunset came, it's too late. I once had a neighbor at my building who had a son who was not religious, And the neighbor said, so the son said he lives in Haifa. His mother likes candles right when after the sun goes down every Friday night. So terrible. When is she lighting the candles? After the sun goes down. You can't light the candles after the sun goes down. Got to light the candles before the sun goes down. And every time after the sun goes down, my mom lights the candles. I wonder how much of a problem that is in the Holy Land. People that are not so educated, and they might mix up, what's candle lighting time. Candle lighting is like 18 minutes before sunset. And, technically, if you need to do 18 minutes, 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before if necessary. Obviously, try not to go not to go so close to the window. It's not a good idea. Obviously, 18 minutes for a reason, but some people have to be careful, right? But we look, and there's another Inyan called Tosfot Shabbat. It's supposed to add a little bit to the Shabbat. You mentioned for a Moshe Feinstein, you should try to do stop work 2 minutes before Shabbat. That seems like, don't go until sunset. What time is sunset? How much time do I look at the clock? That's not really the way a person should really, because you're supposed to add something to Shabbat. So we consider when the sun goes down, we treat it like it's Shabbat. In all aspects of, regarding work-related activities, we consider we don't do malacha. We don't handle mukser. We treat it like Shabbat once the sun goes down, because it might be Friday night. It might be the seventh day. But now the flip side, tomorrow night, when the sun goes down, we don't say, okay, the sun goes down. Okay, now I can look at my phone. Now I could make telephone calls, because we say maybe it's still day. Maybe it's still Shabbat. Until we get those stars out, we have to be concerned. Maybe it's Shabbat. So we give it the stringencies of both. So we treat it. Maybe it's day, maybe it's night. We got to be strict. And if a person went ahead and did malacha, did work during that time period, right? The person went ahead and Friday, let's say tonight at 4:45, which is already at 4:45 is well into twilight. He planted something in the field, or he cooked 4:45 tonight. He's going to have to go bring a korban. What's the korban? Called Asham Talui. It's a korban offering that maybe I violated the Shabbat. I did an act that I might have violated the Shabbat. So now the Gemara continues. The Gemara says, Ve'izehu ben hashmashot. When does ben hashmashot begin? What is the time period of ben hashmashot? What is you want to identify that time? So the Gemara says that's mishatishka hachama, when the sun sets, when you see that when the sun goes down. Kol zman shepnim misach madimim. As long as the eastern face of the sky, you see it's still red. And Rashi says, why is the sun sets in the west, but it's red. You see the redness of the sun, the rays of the sun still in the clouds. There's some rays of the sun. So that's already twilight. Now you're in the twilight zone, right? There's rays of the sun. The sun has gone down, but there's still some light going on. So it's questionable time. Is it night? Is it day? Now, if the bottom of the sky near the horizon has gotten dark, so now how would you look at that? And it got dark, but the upper part of the sky is still not dark. You still see some light. So then that's still questionable time, right? It's not dark, and if it would be dark on the bottom and upstairs, it would be night. So that's called ben hashmashot. But hirsif elyon, hishfil tachton. But if both the bottom of the sky, the bottom, near the horizon is dark, and also the top of the sky is dark, so then zehu layla. That's nighttime. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Gemara says, Nechemia Omer. Nechemia has a different opinion. He says it's a very short window of time for ben hashmashot. This seems to be a shorter window. He says, Misha Tishka, Kadesh, Reb Nechemia Omer, Kadesh Yahalech Adam, you have Reb Nechemia, we're on 34b2, on the top, about 5 lines at the top. Nechemia Omer, Kadesh, we'll say hello to Morris, good morning Morris, Kadesh Yahalech Adam, Misha Tishka Chama Chatzi Mil. The amount of time that a person should travel, walk, a half a mil. Now, what is a mil? Some say mil's 18 minutes, some say 24 minutes, 22 minutes or so. So the amount, half of that, let's say, many say it's 18 minutes is a mil. Mil is about 2,000 amot, between 3,000 and 4,000 feet. So if to walk a half a mil, to walk 9 minutes, it's a 9-minute time from the sun goes down until it's dark. Is a 9-minute period. That's the total doubt question, the first 9 minutes. But after 9 minutes, it's already night. Now, comes Rav Yossi Omer. Rav Yossi has a different opinion. He says, Bein Hashmashot is Heref Ayin. Bein Hashmashot is like the blink of an eye. There's not this long period between, this long questionable period between sunset and darkness, that's called Bein Hashmashot, and there's a long period of question. Rather, the Gemara later on is going to explain which part does he say is which. He's going to say it is a very short time. There's a time that's total day, time total night, and between day and night is like a blink of an eye. It's not something that there's this long doubtful time. He says, Bein Hashmashot keref ayin. Like the Shabbat has come, or not the Shabbat, the new day has come, and the previous day has left. And to exactly identify that time, which is the time that's in doubt, it's hard to recognize. Is this the time that's in doubt or not the time in doubt? So he holds it's not this long time that, see, if the other opinions, you could say it's a 9-minute time, or it's a much longer time, sunset until, I wonder how long it takes for the bottom of the sky, bottom of the horizon, the top of the horizon to be all dark. It takes time, right? It takes time. You see, you still see light the way we see it. Your sun goes down, and you still see light. It takes time for everything to become dark. Omamar. So now the Gemara says, we said Matilin oto lechomesh lehayomim. We said that we're going to give him the stringencies of 2 days. That means we say that we treat Bein Hashmashot, we're gonna treat it like day and like night, right? We're gonna say maybe Bein Hashmashot is day, and therefore you won't be able to do work. If you did work on Friday between sunset and evening, you would have to bring a korban if you did it Friday. And the same thing if you did it tomorrow night, the same thing. The guy did, let's say 4:45 tonight, he did something, and 4:45 tomorrow night he did something. He cooked tonight at 4:45 and cooked tomorrow at 4:45. So you're going to say it's part. He might have done. You would have to say he has to bring for sure. He has to bring one korban, right? Or unless he definitely did something. He definitely did a sin, because either today was day, so therefore today was day. So then if today at 4:45 is daytime, so then tomorrow 4:45 is also daytime. And if it's daytime, you would have to go ahead and bring a korban because he violated the Shabbat. And if it's nighttime, right? So then tonight he did a malacha tonight by doing it 4:45. So we gotta give him, or even if he did it at 4:45 tonight, he has to bring a korban because maybe he violated the Shabbat. We have to be strict. We treat it as if, well, we're going to treat this part of the day. Sometimes we'll treat it as day. Sometimes we'll treat it as night. right? The same or two different people. One guy comes, Rabbi, I did something 4:45 tonight, on Friday night. You have to bring a korban. We'll treat it as night. A different person comes tomorrow. It's like, I did something tomorrow. Tomorrow is 4:45. We'll say you also got to bring a korban because we'll treat it as day, right? You see how we could treat it. We could treat the sat time period. Sometimes we'll treat it. We'll give it the stringency of day, give that time period as night. So where does this come up that we're going to treat it both this time as is a new idea that we're going to treat it sometime we're going to treat it both as day and as night. This particular time period, where is that going to come up? Where is that going to be necessary to tell me that we're going to need to treat it as day and the same period as day and at night? Could just tell me you can treat it either. You'll give it the stringency of both day and night. What is it? What does it tell? It means either day or it's night. How does it come into play by treating it both as day and as night, the same period of time? So here the Gemara is going to say a fascinating thing. Rav Huna brings Rav Yeshua, then Yatuma, regarding contamination. Now, there's different ways a person can become contaminated. If a man has a discharge, a normal discharge, that makes him contaminated. That makes him tameh, right? A person, let's say, was with his wife, normal discharge, that in order for him to go to the Beit HaMikdash, he'd have to go to the mikveh first. Because he became tameh. That act, even though it's a holy act, but yet it's a mitzvah, but it becomes there's a contamination that becomes on the person that in order for him to can't touch truma, he can't go to the Beit HaMikdash, he has to go to the mikveh, right? Goes to the mikveh, waits till the sun goes down, and he's they're good. I mean, today when a lady goes to the mikveh, she goes to the mikveh after she finished counting her 7 days, after the 7 days at night, whatever, after the 7 days and 7 clean days, whatever, at night she goes to the mikveh. But when it comes to the man that we're talking about, he could technically go when he has discharge, he could technically go to the mikveh by day, and then he waits till the sun goes down, it comes evening, and then he becomes pure. Okay, so that is a normal discharge. Then there's something called a not normal discharge. It's not the same type of discharge as a normal discharge. It's a sign of some sort of sickness, but it also has also contamination, but it has a more serious contamination. What's a more serious contamination? That the first time a man sees this not normal discharge, they'll describe exactly what it is, this type of discharge, but it's not. Morning, Dr. Rosen. Good to see you. It's not this discharge. It's not a normal. The first time he has it, he will become tameh for 1 day. So that's like a normal discharge. But if the man has this discharge more than once during the day, twice he has it during the day, he will now become contaminated for 7 days, and he has to count 7 clean days. Until then, he is tameh. He can't go to the Beit HaMikdash for 7 days. He has a status of contamination on him for those 7 days. If he has 3 discharges during that day, or consecutive days, 3 consecutive days, or he could have 2 in 1 day and 1 in the other day. If he has 3 discharges, not only does he become contaminated for 7 days, he was contaminated for 7 days after the second discharge, unusual discharge, but he has to bring a korban. He has to bring an offering. It's even more serious. Okay, so that's a little bit background. Is it clear, Jack? Is it clear? So we have 2 discharge, 1 discharge, unusual discharge. He just tameh for 1 day, time for 1 day. 2 discharges, he's contaminated for 7. He needs 7 clean days on the deal. And 3 discharges, he's contaminated 7 clean days, plus he has to bring an offering. Okay? Now, to bring the offering, it has to be continuous, meaning either 3 in 1 day or three consecutive days. But if there's a day in between, if he has a discharge on day 1 and a discharge on day 3 and nothing on day 2, that breaks it up, right? Also, he will not become contaminated for 7 days, so it wasn't continuous. Okay, So now, with that background, the Gemara is going to say regarding this Bein Hashmashot, how this is going to play a role. So the Gemara says, regarding contamination, this doubtful period between sunset and we're talking, Dr. Rosa, about sunset and evening, twilight zone, if they call it that. That time period, how do we view that time period? It's a very doubtful time period, very not clear time period to identify it. Is it day? Is it night? Is it both within it? The Gemara says there'll be this great ramification regarding contamination. Vietnam, we have a Mishnah. The Mishnah, you see, is in Masechta Zavim. There's actually a tractate of Mishnayot that deals with these laws of discharges, unusual discharges. And these are based from Sukkim in the Torah. Torah talks about this. It says the following: Rosh Neyamim Bein Hashmashot. If he saw he had unusual discharges, 2 consecutive days, one twilight zone after the next twilight zone. Let's say tonight is one twilight zone. Tonight from sunset till dark, he had a discharge, and he had another discharge tomorrow night. Unusual discharge between sunset and darkness. So we say he's a safek. There is a lot of questions now. How do we view what status does this person have by having these discharges both today during this twilight zone and tomorrow? So the Gemara says there's a doubt regarding the Tumah, regarding whether he's actually Tameh for 7 days. There's a doubt regarding Korban, whether he has to bring a Korban, and we'll explain this in a minute. But if you only saw one day, so seeing one day, there's no question. If you only saw one day, there can't be a 7-day doubt, right? Sorry, there can't be a Korban doubt. Because Korban, to bring an offering, has to have 3 discharges. One day, if you saw one Bein Hashmashot, if you saw it during Bein Hashmashot, it's not going to be a concern of possibly 3 discharges, but we're going to see how it's going to be a possible of, it might be considered like 2, and there's a question regarding Safek L'Tumah. There's a question regarding contamination. And let's explain this point. Here it goes. Tonight at 4:45, he saw, let's say, a discharge. Now we said tonight, that might be considered day. Tonight at 4:45 might still be considered today, right? But it's possible it's today. And then he goes ahead and he saw a discharge tomorrow, let's say at 4:50, right? So now it's possible that today was today's discharge, and tomorrow's this. Now, if you're going to say it's both day, today is day, and if we're going to consider this time period of Bein Hashmashot as daytime, so he had a discharge today, Friday, and he had a discharge on Saturday. If we consider that both day, 4:45 today and 4:50 tomorrow, if we're going to consider that both day, so how many? If we consider that time period, that twilight period as day, so he has 2 days in a row, 2 different days that he has discharge, and then what's the law? 2 different days in a row, he's contaminated for 7 days. Say it again. I mean, many sveikot, right? But when you have many sveikot, it could be that in this case, he might have to bring. We have to see about would he have to bring a asham tolui. Let's see, 1 second. But for our Gemara's purpose at this point, we're gonna say what what is these are going to be the doubts. We're going to have a possibility. I mean, yes, we'll have to look into your question about Svak Sveka, but the Gemara the Mishnah wants to identify how many possible doubts we have regarding this as a result of this question of how to view Venash Mashot. We're going to have, meaning because we might say it has both day and night in it, then there's going to be a safek for korban, and maybe you will have to actually, because of the safek, you might have to bring an offering because you might need to, out of doubt. So even if you have a safek, even if many safeks, but the bottom line is you might need to bring offering, and maybe they're not going to use the safek to make you exempt from this possible offering that you might need to bring, because you might be obligated in this offering. We'll have to check that out. But God bless you. So we say 4:45 and 4:50 tomorrow, we could consider it as 2 days in a row. Right? It's possible it's 2 days in a row. But it is also possible that if you saw 4:45 today and 4:50 tomorrow, it's possible that 4:45 today is Friday, right? We can look at his daytime. 4:50 tomorrow night could be Sunday, because it might be nighttime. So therefore, it's not 2 consecutive days. It's Friday and Sunday. Therefore, he will not be contaminated for 7 days. To be contaminated, it has to be consecutive. Is that clear? Is that clear? But there's another issue. There's another thing. What happens if a person has a discharge over 2 days? One discharge over 2 days, that's considered like that's considered like 2 discharges. The fact that it's over 2 days, that's considered like 2 discharges. So now the fact that we could consider this twilight zone, possibly some of it might be day and some of it might be night. So therefore, when he had that, let's say he had the discharge at 4:45 today, we could consider 4:45 today. Let's say we'll consider that as day, as Friday. But then tomorrow night at 4:50, when he has this discharge, we could consider 4:50. Part of it might be daytime, which is Saturday. 4:50 tomorrow. If it's day, is Saturday. That means that's the second discharge. And while he's having that second discharge, it could be that time there was a transfer from Saturday to Sunday during that discharge over 2 days. So then that's considered like 2 discharges. So then he has 3 then it'll be considered 3 discharges. Therefore, there would be a possibility of a korban. So that would be the safek for the korban. So that's by considering this time period, even though the discharge was only during the twilight zone, but the fact that we could consider it as both days, that we might consider the twilight zone, that this might be day and a moment later it might be night. So therefore, it would be considered. He would have to be a safek, and I have to get back to Jack on that. The safek regarding korban, he might have an obligation of an offering because he might have had 3 discharges. Because today at 4:45 was daytime. Tomorrow 4:50 might be day 4:50 when he starts having discharge at 4:50. That might have been the daytime of tomorrow, which is another day. Today's day is one day, tomorrow day is another day. And then as the discharge continued during the twilight zone, he might have entered into the night, and therefore it's a 3rd discharge. I want to wish everyone very interesting Gemara, not a simple Gemara, everybody. Have a beautiful, thank you for coming. Have a great Shabbat, everybody. We're back on Monday, 6:45.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Morris. Thank you. Good to see you. Eddie says hello.
Eddie's great. You tell you great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Say hello to the baby. What's the baby's name? He's not a baby. He's a big boy. He's a
Yosef,
big boy.
Yosef.
Yosef, you're a big boy, right? You look like such a nice big boy. It's so nice that you're with your daddy, you're listening to the Torah class. That's so nice of you. Yosef, Yosef, there was a big Yosef at Tzaddik. We're going to be learning about him soon. He's going to be coming up.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Rabbi.
really, in this week's parsha is the birth of Yosef HaTzadik. In this week's parsha, we'll read about Yosef, the birth of Yosef.
Beautiful.
Have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Rabbi.
much. Bye-bye. Take care. Upstairs. Pray upstairs, and then breakfast downstairs. 8:30 upstairs.